Leslie.
Welcome, Speed Gaming and Final Fantasy Randomizer fans. We are in day 5 of the week 1 spring tournament for Final Fantasy. I have with me today Triton GL on the comms, and we have Twitch and Chilled for our tracker tonight. So, Trenton, let me ask you, so far this week we've had some pretty interesting matchups, to say the least. Anything you're expecting out of today's match?
Well, looking at it, I'm thinking Doogie's gonna probably drop one of these mages with the overlap of the two red mages. Kyo, I think Greg means the name is always in danger, but the rainbow kinda nice for this set. You can usually drop at least one, if not two, depending on the magic you find. So we'll probably see some limited team strats to try and get better levels.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a little nervous of starting out double rainbows because depending on what we find early on for magic, I mean, it could be a benefit for Doogie, but it also could be a hindrance at low level as we are checking the magic shop.
Quad X at level 1, that's friendly to either party. It's not friendly to be lacking an AoE spell, but you're not giving anything up for a red mage at level 1. Arm 4 is also a pretty good find at level 1. It's not the spell you'd choose, but when it's the spell you have, it can do a lot for you.
Yeah, I agree. And it looks like we got gold bracelets right there to start out, and I want to say they're around 28,000 right there in Canaria, so will be definitely something they might want to take note of for the later game.
Especially with these mages, you'll be wanting to purchase at least 2 of them if you're going to have all 4 light warriors alive at the end. So it's something you can come back to when you have a bit more cash at hand.
And it looks like Kyuketsuki is the first one out of town. He's going to reset a couple times, but he is using that white mage in the front, so wondering if he's going to try to dan him off before we get to the Garland fight.
That's certainly an option. Here's a great enemy pack for that Harm 4. I was going to say, I like that both of them seem to be looking for that good first fight to get around Canaria, and maybe get level 3, which is a great thing when you've got single target damage for your black magic. But,
yeah, and like you said, Harm 4 coming in here is actually really good. The fact that we got the bones, because I mean, there's a multitude of enemies in here. They could have got the undead pack, but there's also crawls and I believe wolves they can find in here too. So being able to find undead right at the start with that Harm 4 was definitely a good pickup.
Quad X is great for Garland because it's just going to auto-kill anything that's not undead, under 300 HP, while we start with the Flutter and the Adamant.
And this is actually kind of an interesting situation for Kyuketsuki, because now that he's got the Adamant, is he going to go right over to the Dwarf Cave, maybe see where that leads to? Or are we going to take a trip up to maybe Matoya and check out the port town of Provoka as to what that's going to...
You know, this is a tough call, and you can justify either way, because we have to have a path to get to the floater. That's either by ship or by canoe. So the most likely candidates for having that are the towns between Elfland and Provoka, and the incentive chest in Marsh Cave. So 2 in 3 chance, at the risk of doing math while live on Twitch, which is always dangerous, that your towns lead to your progression instead of Marsh Cave.
Yes, and I agree. And I don't think it's a bad play trying the port town of Provoka starting out, because as you saw, it looks like Kyuketsuki placed a save item just across the bridge, so depending on what he finds here, he can easily just reset out and only lose just, a minute or 2, and then head on over to the Dwarf Cave at that point.
Not bad to be able to quad X some ogres either. So it's Melmond, which doesn't serve any value for us, except Kyo picked up Harm 4. Kyo's going to take advantage of Zozo Melmond. We talked about this earlier in chat today. We've seen this strategy play out earlier in the run. It's a great place to get to levels without having to go to Peninsula Power.
The only thing that's going to be a problem is these pirates that I was just going to bring up, is if he doesn't find the undead pack and he finds the pirates, it could pose a little bit of difficulty.
And the Adamant turns into the ship.
And Doogie goes right to the Dwarf Caves, finds the ship, so he's actually going to be able to turn in that floater right away if he chooses to.
It's great moves either way. Both of these plays make perfect sense. Kyo Needs to survive to get that Harm 4 off. Doesn't that time.
And that is the one thing about Zozo Melman is early on, especially if you get the full 9-pack mobs, I mean, it can be rough as a level 1 party, even with the Harm 4 if you're not able to get it off. But the XP is going to prove, to be huge advantage if you can get that off and get that kill.
Yeah, he just needs a little bit of initiative on his side and a good enemy pack to start getting the momentum rolling. Because once you get a couple of the levels, your party gets a lot more durable. And it looks like he's probably going to sacrifice that Black Mage now.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the goal there. And I mean, that's not a bad move on his part either. But the other benefit of Zozo Melman is the town is right there. So after every battle, he's able to save all of his progress.
Yeah, and it seemed like this was a front-loaded encounter table, so there's also the advantage of being able to get into those fights pretty quickly. Pro rings are for sale here, another item you want to note. You'll find a couple of them in the world, but not enough for everybody, so good to know where they are.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that we see early Melman here because it makes you wonder, are we going to need the slab early on, considering that it is, early? Because at this point, Kyuketsuki doesn't know that the ship is just over to the dwarf cave currently. But we see Doogie. He's going right for the desert, and he's going to claim that floater. And it's going to be interesting where he chooses to go at that point, because then the world's going to be fairly open to him as to what he wants to check.
At this early in the game, I really feel you want to hit free spots. So Sarda is a big one to get to. The other big thing to get to is the Cardia Islands, because you'll probably get enough treasure to get your early game rolling.
Exactly, and I agree with that play. I think hitting up Sarda first, because it is a free item, and then going up to checking places. You could even check Matoya if you want to park outside. I mean, 3 chests there, but definitely Cardia Isles I feel like is a big one on the table. Get that early gold, and if you're lucky, you can even find a couple encounters on that island where he might be able to use the Quad X and get a couple levels too.
Yeah, it's not as friendly, actually, as what Kyu is doing right now. Kyu is setting up for Marsh Cave, because right now he doesn't know otherwise. And he knows it's more likely than not. So it's a play that makes perfect sense, and it won't really cost him anything. He's gonna be better equipped to advance once you do the airship tasks. So he could potentially go into a dungeon faster than Doogie, or at least more safely.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like Doogie either stopped by Elfland either. I would have been curious to see what that town was, but he went directly over, did the floater, and then went right up to Crescent Lake, and then up to Provoca, which is Melman.
He finds Provoca and Invis 2 here. Either play doesn't really cost you anything, just for simplicity in my mind, as we find Temper and Warp at level 2.
That'll be huge.
Yeah, I think this is really leaning into Kyu's strengths, actually, with the Red Mage versus the Black Mage. Doogie also with the 2 Red Mages. The Black Mage really didn't add anything spell-wise so far. Of course, we haven't seen 3 or 4, but...
Exactly, and I mean, Temper is not going to be super useful the early game, but having both of his characters with Warp is definitely going to make saving time doing some of those dives, whether it be in going in to see Sarda and saving, a few seconds there, or as much as, having to do that dive for Armory and Volcano, or even the Marsh Cave dive, being able to just get out of there ASAP.
Also, this means the first 2 levels of Black Magic are pretty bad as far as damage goes. Quad X is a utility spell that is great, but it doesn't clear out packs of enemies.
Yeah, it just doesn't do it. Confused was another one at level 1 that I might have picked up. It is useful at some point in the game, maybe not early on, but definitely one I could have seen maybe being picked up for later on, whether it be for the carry fight or, just in a situation where you might need to use it.
Kyu also got into an interesting position because Melman doesn't have a clinic, so he was not able to restore the fighter until he walks back to Crescent. He's going to bring, not Crescent, Canaria. He's going to bring everybody back up for now.
And he does have a decent amount of money too. He was able to, I think, pick up a few things there in Melman too. And I guess that's kind of the give and take for Melman when you have Zozo and you get, you're able to take advantage of that.
By 10! What are you doing, Kyu? You gotta pick the by 10! I love getting 20-30 pures in the early game because that's usually enough for the whole game. And pures and softs are the ones that are always guaranteed to be for sale here at Canaria.
Yeah, especially if he planned on doing that early Marsh dive. I mean, pures I've always found to be super useful going into Marsh. So, and we know it's an incentivized location, so whether he does the early dive here after he finds out that this is ship or later on, it's still going to be a place that they're potentially going to have to dive.
Now he's about to find the ship from the doors. He finds this about 6 minutes or so after Doogie did. And finds a whole bunch of money there, which is also a very welcome sight. The pirates did hand over the rod, so we have picked up that now. Also, Ruse at level 2. I didn't notice that earlier, but that's good news for the night.
Yes, definitely Ruse will be a good pickup for the night once they do the class promotion. Definitely. Always want to take note of that. But otherwise, I didn't really see much for weapons and armor in the way of Provoca there.
Yeah, that's not some... The weapons in particular, I kind of don't even check the weapon shops anymore. Doogie, I would have loved to see him land on the Oasis there just to check for vendor item. But the weapon shops I just don't check because the best you're hoping for is silver swords. And with how expensive they are, I usually just resort to finding something instead.
Yeah, it was kind of odd to not see Doogie stop there at the Oasis because we've still yet to see the vendor item either. And I mean, there's always the possibility that the vendor item is actually there versus being in one of the towns.
Meanwhile, Doogie has found the canoe, Sarda had it, and now he has full access to the world. I wouldn't call this a jet sea despite the travel because there's the vendor item. It's the Oxy Ale, rather expensive.
But Elfland holds Crescent Lake, which we do have the Confused Old Men here, which will give up yet another item for both runners here. Steel armor and for 8,000 is actually a pretty good pickup. That would be something I might make note as well if he's not able to find flame or ice armor. You can always pick up steel armor as well.
Life and exit at level 6. Biggest thing I really want to find right now is... Wow! So either level 3 and 4 are going to be really good black magic, or this is going to be a really awful seed.
Yeah, because I mean, still at this point, we've yet to see any sort of, Ice 2, Fire 2, Lit 2, or any sort of AoE magic at this point, so...
Yeah, we've not seen any of the elemental AoEs for black magic. We've not seen Nuke. We've not seen Fast. The Herb from the...
Or even Fade. Fade would be another early possibility we haven't seen.
Well, yes, but that would be white magic, and I was just talking black. We also haven't seen Life 2, if you want to throw white magic in. Or Cure 4.
Definitely a good find for Doogie right now, as he's going to be able to access a huge amount of chests with that Mystic Key. Also definitely going to be used to access the locked door in Tofu.
Yeah, this is going to lead to a lot of available treasure for Doogie. He hasn't been to Cardia Isles with the airship yet. Now you throw the key on top of it. That's a lot of stuff you get access to.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if maybe the reason he switched or decided not to hit the Cardia Isles is a lot of people I know like to hit those once they have the tail, so they only have to do the one dive. But I feel like early on, if you get the airship like we did, it's just a free amount of chests to be able to just pick up right away.
The Vorpal for Doogie, he's going to very much be happy about that because he is solidly on Team Vorpal, believing in the crit rate to get through the late game enemies.
Speaking of which, using that warp to save just a few seconds to get out of the armory there. Was able to pick up a couple weapons. I mean, maybe not necessarily the best weapons, but for early on in a seed like this, always definitely nice to find any sort of weapon and or armor or equipment for that matter. And it looks like he's going to check these three here, right there in Northwest Castle as well.
This is a great check. Did he save outside?
He did not know.
Okay. Well, he doesn't have a good setup for the... Well, yes, he does. He has Harm 4. You can check the mummy tiles here as well, and at level 4, it's a lot of experience. So, blast these with Harm 4. Should be easy pickings for a bunch of experience.
And this will be actually a decent tile, having the Harm 4 to be able to, grind just for the XP, but I think it gives a decent amount of money as well for early on.
Yeah, between everything we have access to now, you should do pretty good for getting money. In particular, right now, we're looking for money for Elfland, in my opinion. That level 3, level 4 magic is our biggest early game question that remains unanswered.
And I mean, I can already see a huge difference from the race that I actually announced earlier in the weekend. The biggest thing was with that seed, it was a little over an hour before we actually had access to the floater. So this seed right here just seems to be flying by, being able to find access to both the ship and the floater in the first, few minutes of the game. So it'll be kind of cool to see, if getting the early access to the ship and the floater is going to make the seed faster, or if those loose items are going to pose a problem later on.
That delicious Harm 4 leads to a lot of delicious experience. You don't want to overdo it on those mummies. They won't carry you too far, but they were a solid start.
And actually, picking out these chests here in Dwarf Cave is going to be huge for Doogie, because he does have that warp. So, I mean, you don't maybe think about it, but having a travel spell, whether it be warp or exit, can really save a bunch of time, when you're doing these checks. And over the course of a race, it could really mean the difference of, beating someone by a few seconds, or, giving second place because you just didn't have any access to get out of some of these places. So, could definitely be huge overall in the ending of the game. But he does pick
armor and Pro Cape, good defensive finds.
Yeah, for sure. Pro Cape is nice because it's considered a shield item, and I believe all Light Warriors can wear it.
I think everybody but Black Belt and Black and the Master. I don't think they get it. Alright, now Doogie in position to go for the Cardia Islands. Finds an Ice Shield. That's a fantastic find, because Flame Armor Ice Shield is a great matchup when you don't have a ribbon. That way you get stacking elemental defenses. You got one against one and one against the other.
I'm actually curious to see which of the runners are going to be the first one to dive marsh, and at one point are they going to hit marsh now that they have access to the floater? Is it going to be one of the last incentivized places checked, which could be a possibility, or is one of them going to hit it up early, knowing that they do have access to that warp, and it can be a fast check?
Hooray! Dwarf check from Kyuketsuki. Run is valid now. Yeah, I think you go to marsh last, or pretty well last. It's just an unpleasant place to be, and I've heard Kyu talk a little bit about his plan. He does not like going marsh. I really see that as a last resort play. Much like Earth Cave, if you go in there at a much higher level, then you're not scared about it. That's a big find! Doogie just found the Mage Staff, and especially in a seed that has been starved for AoE magic, that early free Fire 2 item is fantastic.
Yeah, that is huge. That'll definitely carry him until he's able to find any sort of AoE magic.
So it's a recurring theme for me to say, listen to what the seed is telling you. What I feel the seed is now telling us is we've got warp charges, we've got a mage staff, the first dungeon should be Ordeals.
Oh, for sure. I think Ordeals at this point is a good play.
Do, however, like Doogie going here, since it's 50%, this is Elfland. It's either here or Lefane, and I don't mind getting level 3 and 4 magic before going to a dungeon.
Yeah, and this is actually a decent play because even if this doesn't pose to be Elflin, he can still save. He could check out the waterfall while he's here if he chooses to, and attempt to pull out the item there because we do have warp, and it would just be the matter of running down there. And
it is Elflin. So level 3 and 4 magic, what do we have? We've got Lit 3, Ice 2, Fast. Is Nuke at 4? This is a big question to me right now.
definitely a ton of AoE though, right there. Getting Ice 2 and Lit 3 both huge at this point. Fade at level 3, another big pickup.
I dare say this is advantage red mages. Being able to learn everything that's necessary, and Fade at level 3 is going to trump even Nuke at level 4. Nuke's more damage, but you'll have more charges of Fade, which is usually what you need for getting through enemy packs. No Life 2 in the first 4 levels, so that makes Life at level 6 the best we've got.
Not very good black magic either.
This is not a good Black Mage Seed. Lit 3 as our best spell in 5 out of the first 6 levels.
I mean, that's got to mean that level 7 and 8 is going to have to hold Nuke, because I didn't see it when we were at level 6 magic and there at Crescent Lake.
I don't remember the check, but okay. Yeah, that fits. So this is really not a good Black Mage Seed. And no doubt, as chat says, Lit 3 is functional. It's not a bad spell. It's just, you're in for a rough time when you have to say that's your best black magic spell.
No armor to be had either at Elfland. Just wooden and cloth. Nothing really worth picking up for either people there. But I mean, picking up that Ice 2 will be nice coming up here at a waterfall, because if we happen to come across any like unrunnable nightmares or whatever, we do now have magic against them, and we do have the mage staff for the trap tile inside there for the, I believe it's the cockatrices and mummies and whiz mummies on that trap tile. And there we saw Doogie reset in and out a couple times in Waterfall, trying to get that, what we like to call that hero run. Didn't quite make it, but he is finally now traversing through here. Doesn't seem to have too much of an issue at this point. And we have Kyuketsuki taking on the pirates.
Well, the good news is Quad X is going to kill pirates, because anything is. Really, you hit them with any AoE, they're going down. They just don't get enough HP.
I thought he picked up the mage staff also. I didn't see him use it though.
It was in the Cardia Islands, so yeah, he should have it. Ooh, those nightmares. They are jerks.
Kyuketsuki's gonna pick up his rod from our friend Vicky.
And we get an out of bounds bat sighting.
Buckler here, not a bad pickup for the red mage.
Quad X not going to work against the mummies. He didn't move over the mage staff, unfortunately.
Is able to at least get through that trap tile, so hopefully we can check the robot, see what it is, and still be able to make it out, because it appeared that those mummies or whiz mummies had a death touch there.
Yeah, they weren't the most pleasant. Any good treasure to go along here? Just a little bit of gold so far. And the slab. We do know where Melmond is.
And I believe we do know where Lefane is also.
Yeah, we just saw that at Gaia, I believe. He's out. He saves. Does he stick with the Tube Man? Does he bring him back up here at Elfla?
That to me believes that Anrak then is at the Lefane original location, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's actually Gaia. I think we saw Anrak elsewhere, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, Doogie brings everybody up. It's a lot of fade charges, so that does kind of favor having more people right now. And not everybody likes doing the short party strats, so...
And if he's going to hit up or not Anrak, sorry, if he's going to hit up Ordeals here, I think having 3 casters with Fade is going to be beneficial getting through there, especially if he's going to try to get some XP off any of the encounters that are in there.
He's landing to go to Ordeals, so I like the play for Doogie. I said from the time we saw the Mage Staff, this is what the Seed was telling me to do. Oh, don't mess with Tyros. Leave Tyro alone. Tyro didn't do anything to you. Although I am on Team Tyro, I also just logically say they're usually not worth the time. They tend to be a little bit higher on the HP and durability. So the experience per time invested is actually not very good. Yeah, that took 2 full rounds for not really that much experience.
Yeah, and he's going right into Ordeals. I mean, if he's looking for XP, I feel like finding it in Ordeals is going to be a way better play anyway. The only thing in Ordeals that I don't like for XP is going to be either the Nightmare encounter off the trap tile or the, I think it's Catmen that are in there, but everything else is fairly juicy for the XP.
Yeah, Catmen are just jerks. I like a little of what we're seeing out of Doogie. He has clearly been paying attention about some of the encounter manipulation strats that go on. One of the easy things to do is save on the overworld and take a nice little walk before you get to the next encounter, then save, reset, and do it all over again. But you can change that if the first encounter is really quick, get that encounter reset instead of a soft reset, instead of a power cycle reset, and skip right past it. So he did a little bit of that there to get a better walk. I didn't do the best job explaining it there, but it was a good move by Doogie, is what I'm saying.
And it's ironic, it looks like Kyuketsuki is trying to get some XP here in the river system. Unless he was just trying to encounter manipulate, but that was a very long run to...
This river system is actually a pretty good spot for getting experience. A lot of things are pretty good here, especially the nachos. And it looks like he's also testing the waters with Quad X to see how easy things are. Thank you, Drumbordus. That's a good explanation in chat. So I'll repeat this for the sake of the VOD. If a power on-off will yield a fight in 5 steps and the next fight won't happen for 27, you do the power cycle, walk the 5 steps to get the first encounter, then you do just a reset instead of a power cycle, you get the nice leisurely 27 steps.
And Doogie there pulling out the Mage Staff and putting some work on those Zombo. Also coming in here with he has access to 2 charges of warp, so he'll actually be able to use those if he chooses to make traveling through here a lot easier.
2 casters of warp, I think you meant to say. So, more like 4 to as many as 6.
You know, I gotta say though, this is something I haven't seen is people hitting this trap tile and picking out this chest, because if you don't get this chest here, it will show up in the final room.
Yep. It does in the final room in Trap Tile Shuffle. I love to check that one because not everybody does. That's a great time for warp. That's what I like to call the whammy pillar. It takes you all the way back to the start. And that was pretty far back as well. Alright. Only 2 pillars left for Doogie. And this is going to be the end of the maze, so he'll be getting the staircase in one of these. There it is. So if you're seeing this and thinking it's great, if only there was more Final Fantasy Randomizer I could watch tonight, well, you're in luck because we got a triple header on Speed Gaming today. Arson Horse and Edgeworth coming up later, 9 o'clock. We've got Captain Nerd, Lord of the Synth. That'll be on Speed Gaming 3. Plenty coming up tonight and in the weeks ahead. So make sure you're following the Speed Gaming family of networks to see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And it's already been a pretty filled week full of randomizers. So the fact that we still have a lot more in the upcoming days to come, I mean, is going to be a whole lot of fun.
And of course, thank you to Speed Gaming for being such a great partner to the Final Fantasy Randomizer tournament. We appreciate you. And I also want to say I appreciate all the runners who have, by and large, tried to space out the matches so that we're not running things on top of each other. We've had issues with that in the past, and it just means you can't watch as many. But this has been a lot more viewer-friendly with the matches spaced out and more opportunities to watch and enjoy the show.
And Doogie's going to pick up his first gold bracelet right there, so goes ahead and puts it right on the white mage.
Excellent piece of defense for the mages. Got a lot of gold now, so we should even be able to afford more if we need to. The ruby is here. It's not required, but it's here. Well, asterisks. We don't know if it's required because there are those 4 chests.
That's correct, and I mean, we are still looking for a loose item, but as far as Sarda holds, we already have access to it, so definitely going to be interesting to see, you know, if Ordeals is actually going to be a required dive with that ruby, or, you know, if it just is a, you know, zonk this time, so.
Well, it gave a lot of momentum. Look at this. Doogie's now at level 11, 12, and something like 10 minutes ago, he was only level 4. So, I mean, he's made rapid progress through those early levels by making this play.
Yeah, the only thing I think I would have done a little bit different than Doogie is I think I would have taken a couple more of those Zombo fights that he did run from having access to the mage staff, but otherwise, I mean, I think he did a pretty good dive in and out of it.
He also picked up the gold bracelet, so there was value in Ordeal, if not necessarily the final item. I think he steered away from the mummies there in particular because he saw them be a little bit nasty at the waterfall. Although he was a little bit more durable now.
And Kyuketsuki gets his slab and is now heading out of the waterfall, so kind of curious to see. He's probably going to swing by Elfland here to revive the 2 lost party members that he has, and it'll be interesting to see if he's going to go ahead and do the same route and head over to Ordeals and do that Ordeals dive.
He's already up to level 12, so it's similar levels between our runners. Kyu didn't really get his going through dungeons, though, so that's a big difference, but it should also enable him to go through dungeons faster. And you're almost never going to complain about how high a level you get your knight to. Fighter knight. The higher level is usually better. Oh, these red ankylos are giving Doogie the business.
That's one fight I always hate seeing, are the Ankylo fights.
Well, as I always say of the normal ankylos, you just don't want to mess with them. They're 80% shell. What is Doogie looking for now? Back to provoke. Okay, I think he's looking for slab.
Yeah, I wonder. He might even pick up. I think we saw what pro rings here.
That's possible. I think you are right. It was one of the early towns. Getting one or two here would not hurt. Very affordable. You've also got enough money for that Oxyel right now, which would feel like a good move.
Yeah, because if you're looking for loose items, I mean, chest density is going to tell me places you're going to want to check. Definitely Volcano Armory is a good place. Early on, you could do the mermaids at the Sea Shrine if you have access with the Oxyel. Or even maybe trying to do the Ice Cave dive with the magic that we have, considering it is also an incentivized location.
This is pretty good magic for Ice Cave. Definitely finish the slab to Lefane, though, because you don't want to pull a Trenton and just forget it. And then full clear the seed. I don't advise that.
Especially if it's an early quest that you can easily do the slab here and go turn it in, because once our runners receive, I believe it's 12 key items, they will then start receiving a 150% EXP boost, which is also a positive thing with collecting items right now.
A chime in Lefane, not random enough.
Well, speaking of chest density, that would be another place. You could check the first and second floor now of Mirage. That's going to hold a decent amount of chests in those first two floors as well.
We're about 30 minutes in. Let's go ahead and run through this real fast. So far, we've seen the king give us the floater. Sarah had the Anavent. The dwarf blacksmith gave us the ship. We didn't need it for long, though. The rod was handed over after defeating the pirates. Sarda was kind enough to hand over the canoe for free. The Oxyel was for sale at Crescent Lake, which was located at Elfland. The actual town of Crescent Lake, the confused old men had the herb. When we woke up, the prince, he gave us the key. The slab was available from the robot, the Ruby, in the chest at Castle Ordeals. And most recently, we found out that the Lefane people are holding on to the chime.
And to conclude all that, we found that not very efficient AoE magic until they were able to find, I think it was at level 3, and that was in Elfland, correct?
Yeah, level 3's really only been the only good level. Fade for your white magic and Lit 3 for your black magic. And I think that's all the way through 6, so that puts Nuke at level 7 or 8. That also puts Ice 3 up there, Fire 3 up there. Not very nice. Also not very nice is the Wiz Ogres in this volcano who have Blizzard.
But it's kind of neat to see how these runners, there for a while, other than the very beginning where one went to the original town of Provoca and the other one chose to hit Dwarf Cave. I mean, they were pretty much following each other's steps, and here we see another split in their travel where one has decided to check out a volcano while the other one's gone directly into Ice Cave. So,
and this is something probably a little bit worthy of mention. You may notice their screens look slightly different between them. The reason for that is both are using what are called fun % flags, so they don't change the way the seed plays as we get the bottle here in Ice Cave. But it can change certain display items in fun %. So Doogie is using fun enemy names, which include the Eye Mages, and Kyuketsuki is using the modern battlefield, so you don't see the lines that you do on Doogie's side.
And that was definitely a decent pickup for Doogie, hitting the bottle in the ice cave. But being able to do that warp trick where he goes down through the hole and then warps back out is able to access all 3 chests at the same time.
I think either play is perfectly fine. This is Ice Cave, so you have a lot of ice enemies, and Mage Staff is good for them. For the undead, you have Harm 4, which is good for them. Now you have a Thor's Hammer, which is good for a lot of stuff, and a Katana, which is good lunch money.
Definitely is going to give his White Mage a little bit of AoE magic that's not considered harm or fade charges. So having that Thor Hammer is a decent pickup.
Yeah, Thor's Hammer also does not run out of spell charges. So, definitely an advantage to having those weapon slots covered with AoE magic.
Especially if we have to do any sort of treasure diving in Sea Shrine, being able to use that against the Sahags is going to be huge for Doogie having that.
Both runners making very good progress through this seed right now. Everything's been steady, neither one has hit any kind of roadblock to hold you up. One of the interesting things to see will be, does one of them take a gamble and go to Marsh Cave, especially since we've seen the Ruby. Now, seeing the Ruby tells us you're going to have to hit all the other incentive locations. The items just don't work out any other way. Or at least not likely.
It looks like Kyuketsuki dove. I didn't see anything uniquely out of the armory, but he was able to get back out, save it. So I think he's going to try to traverse the rest of the chests and maybe be the first one to claim the first orb.
Yeah, it looks like he did the distance ones first and then went out to save the levels and get the additional magic charges.
Which
he
isn't
got
a bad
couple
play.
Peeds. Yeah, he had a couple Peeds fights in there for some great EXP early on. Doogie's exploring the final chests of this ice cave. A light axe is a great find. Wow, the armory pays dividends.
First 2 chests, Mass Immune and Ribbon. I mean, you can't really ask for much more in the first 2 boxes right there.
Yeah, it's hard to have 2 chests next to each other be any better than that. I mean, you're really hard-pressed to name anything. Wondered if Doogie would come down here since he already had this. Sun Sword's a great addition, but Doogie has Warp to get right back to the exit, so he is going to take a few fights against this eye for levels. Oh wow, it is a really weak eye. Silver Helmet's great headgear defensively for Absorb, but Ribbon better for magic.
Able to get that Mass Immune for his fighter, but that Sun Sword's going to be a huge pickup on that Red Mage, so. And that was a huge payoff for the armory, even though there wasn't no incentive item in there. Definitely a huge payoff overall.
Yeah, it's interesting how the randomizer changes over time, and I've been here long enough to see a few of the logic changes. Go back to the first tournament. We used to have a set incentive pool instead of options, and included in the incentive pool was the Mass Immune and the Ribbon. So those were some of the things you were actually looking for in the key item locations.
Well, we know that there's still a ribbon as far as incentivized items go, so Kyuketsuki finding one loose one is almost guaranteed if he goes through the chains and the items that he's potentially going to pick up a second one.
Chad asks if Doogie is at the experience bonus. I don't believe he is. I think he's actually significantly short, but, well...
I think he's got 9 items total.
Well, there's a couple that don't show on there because the herb is further back, and so's the crystal. Like, they're under the key. So he's at least at 11. But I don't think that matters. The eye is so easy that, and you're never coming back for it anyways.
Kyuketsuki didn't make it very far before those Wizovers took out 2 of his party members and forced him to reset out of that.
Right, so how far does Doogie take this? This can help you get through dungeons a lot faster. On the other hand, there's a downside to this, which is you're not getting spell charges on the fighter. Now, you don't have the tail, so it's not exactly an immediate consideration, but not being able to get Ruse, not being able to get Fade, you could definitely be short on those spell charges by the end game because of the leveling here.
Yep, and I'm a big fan of getting a couple levels off the eye, especially as easy as it was. Not necessarily saying I would grind it as far as he did, but I probably would have at least taken it for a couple levels, considering how easy it was.
Yeah, that was an unusually easy eye. The mage staff was killing it, so it's hard not to take a few fights there for that easy leveling.
Looks like Kyuketsuki decided, I got the armory, got a few items, and he's going to go ahead and take his chances in Ice Cave, it looks like.
Now, people have heard me say plenty of times before, don't do math live on Twitch because it always betrays you. Excellent point in chat about starting with the free canal and free birds. So yes, Doogie was at the experience bonus. You just don't think of all these things when you're busy talking about something else.
Actually, you're right, I didn't even think about that.
In that case, I have to pull a Will Cleosis and say that was a veteran move by DoogieMacGyver to get the eye with the bonus experience. Now Kyuketsuki is going to be in the same position. Just seems to be a few steps behind Doogie right now. Not a significant gap between them, but it feels like Kyu is retracing a lot of Doogie's steps right now.
Looks like he's just going right for the bottle turn and didn't even bother starting the magic, but I don't remember if the first trip we saw what level 7 magic held here.
It really wouldn't matter with this party, because we haven't class changed, and even for Life 2, I don't think you're walking back here. And that's all that's left at White Magic, and Black Magic, you don't care. So, yeah, it's understandable that you would just skip the shop altogether, because it just doesn't change anything. Fairy gives us the loot, very required for the end game.
Well, on a good note, at least we know on Doogie's side that he's not going to have to do this travel down to Original Lefane anymore. And that's something I've seen in the other seeds that we've had this week is people will go to what's Original Lefane and it'll be like Onrak or end up being like Melmond where they have to do the slab, and having to double dip at a place like that is just something you want to try to avoid overall.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have had class change. Doogie picks up the chime. That is something Kyu was able to do first, though, so I said earlier that Kyu was chasing Doogie's footsteps. Now a little bit of the reverse. Yeah, so you're talking about incentive locations remaining. Marsh Cave is the big one you gotta circle. But the levels are so good right now, you should be able to make a lot of ground quickly in Marsh Cave. So it wouldn't feel as bad now as it would in the early game, by any stretch.
And he still has that ruby too. He could swing by the Titan's Trove and check out those for just because, I mean, we are still missing, I believe it's still the 2 loose items.
Well, they are right next to each other, or at least in the same general area. Is that the play from Doogie? I think he's analyzed this seed well to make this play here.
Now, Triton, coming from your experience, since we are missing a loose item, and Doogie's coming into Marsh Cave being an incentivized location with the key, do you check the key lock chest while you're here as well?
That is usually a consideration of how early in the game it is and how difficult the dungeon is. If the dungeon's not difficult, you don't leave anything behind. The only reason I shortchange anything in Marsh Cave is because the dungeon is just killing me and I have to get that key item out of here. Right now, we should have no trouble getting through here. Good point in chat that as far as go mode is concerned, the only thing we're missing is the cube at this point. We don't have the tail, which is usually a welcome sight, especially with the fade available for the night. And there's certainly other things we would love to have. Opal Bracelet is one of those.
Definitely a good find in Marsh Cave.
Best armor for the Red Mage.
It's actually going to be curious to see if the cube that we're missing is actually going to be behind the TNT turn-in, or if it's just going to be out loose in the world.
It could be very interesting how that plays out, because let's say you get the cube here. You're technically in go mode. Do you sacrifice everything else? Do you sacrifice not having a second ribbon, not having the tail, and just go?
Yeah, because if he chooses to go, I mean, that means he's going to be skipping armor, and we know Volcano Armory holds some treasures to be had.
Well, that makes an interesting question on Doogie's side more than Kyu's side, because Kyu with the Masamune has his endgame weapon, and he's got the ribbon. When I said that, I really wasn't thinking it all the way through, because Kyu doesn't have a ribbon, which is too important not to have at least one for Topher. So, I think between that and the in-game weapon, he's still got a look. But how much does he look, becomes the question.
And I think at that point, I think you pretty much are... I mean, if it was me in that position, I would strictly want to only try to dig out the dense locations first, just to avoid, you know, saving as much time as I could.
And that's a solid statistical play. It's the crown down here in Marsh. Also not random enough.
And this is interesting because it's, does he still just continue to look around for loose items? Or does he go through that chain to see if that chain's going to lead to the cube or not?
I think you finish clearing Marsh Cave, then you take the fetch quest to wherever it leads. Because it's too likely to lead to something good. Either it's the cube you need, or it's the tail or ribbon that you want. Because at this point, I think we're going to see a chain where it's crown to TNT to question mark.
Have we seen the crystal, or is that still another possibility? So it could go like crown to crystal to...
I do not have crystal on my list, so yes, that will probably be in the chain as well. Something like crown, TNT, crystal. Kyu into Provoka.
Flame Sword's not a bad pickup.
No, it's a big upgrade for him right now. Actually, the light axe, I believe, was better than the rare sword, but fire sword's gonna be his best option for now. It'd be a little rough to try and do in-game on that. Oh, hey, gargoyles turn you to stone, so yeah, they continue to live up to their legacy.
And this is going to be the last chest for Doogie here, so what do we got? And just more gold.
Just gold. Yeah, so he was well rewarded here, though, picking up the opal bracelet and the crown, and we will see what that turns in. And it won't take long because Astos is nearby. Also, don't want to forget to check the ruby chests before we go anywhere. Crystal from Astos.
This is not a bad play because I don't think we saw anybody hit Matorius early, so we'll still be able to see those 3 chests, and it won't. Neither runner will have to have made a double check doing this round. Another thing I haven't really seen in these seeds is I don't usually see many people hitting the block chests and Temple of Fiends having the Mystic Key, and since there's still one loose item out there, I mean, it could be a potential, being that there's 3 chests behind those 2 doors.
I don't think we're confirmed that it's only one. I think there's still possibly 2. There's another ribbon. That's going to be the first for Doogie, but it's the second one we've seen. And now the question starts to get a lot more interesting for Doogie if this leads to the cube, but instead it's the tail.
Wow, just to think these runners missed out on that ribbon early on. And I mean, it could have been super useful at the beginning for both runners.
It's never something you're going to turn down, but something that'll nerf the damage of the blizzards that Kia was seeing in the volcano, for example. Kyu has made the play. He's coming to Marsh Cave. The bad news, though, it doesn't look like he's doing the north side. That means missing out on that opal bracelet.
I thought I saw the opal in his inventory. I think he did that dive and then warped out and saved.
My apologies if I missed that while watching Doogie's side. That would make sense, though, as he's still looking for key items. There is class change for Doogie coming at the 56-minute mark.
And I believe he had some armor already in his inventory for that fighter after class change, so...
Chat confirming Kyu picked up the opals, so good for him. That's a very welcome sight anytime you get it. Going to Elfland to get that level 3 Fade, most likely.
Yeah, that'll be big for Doogie, having 4 casters with Fade. Although we haven't seen anybody go back to Canary and pick up any gold bracelets, which we know are for sale there for around 28k.
We did see a little bit of purchasing with that going on. I think Doogie did. Well, Fade is locked. The fighter's not able to get it. Does pick up heal, which is not that great. Check to see if Lamp's learnable. Wisely checks if the red wizards can learn Fade, because if you don't know, you're better off checking and finding out. Well, that's disappointing. But it's probably going to make both runners happy that they have a white mage to cast Fade, because right now that stands as our best AoE magic for the game.
Yeah, now it's going to be interesting to see where Doogie decides to go at this point. Having checked all the incentivized locations, he's pretty much down to just loose items. So is he going to go for that volcano dive for the abundance of chests, or maybe is he going to try to do Mirage and hit the first 2 floors?
You know, he didn't hit the ruby chests yet, and I think that was part of the initial plan, but he kind of followed the fetch quest and didn't get all the way there.
You're right, and that's a possibility. I believe the ruby holds, what, 5 chests?
4. Right, so it's chests you can get to without dealing with a full dungeon is one of the appeals to it. You could also check the first floor of Earth pretty easily before going to a dungeon, but he's got the levels that he should be able to clear out Volcano if that's the play he makes.
Well, he goes to Volcano and then thinks twice a second.
Probably just cap the heals. Oh, the Oxyale, also important. Yeah, if you're gonna dive Volcano, you want max heals for walking through all that lava.
And definitely not a bad play, because like I said, we know what's in the armory. He's gonna definitely find some treasures if he hits it. Plus being able to light his first orb while he's here.
Gets the flame sword, you can stick that in the hands of a red mage, but Sun Sword is better. Now, Doogie on the Volcano dive. We didn't see Kyu finish this, but he certainly got through the armory floor. And I think this will leave Doogie in a position where no doubt once he finds the cube, it's go mode. But it was a fun little conspiracy theory to think about at the time.
Kyuketsuki's gonna go and return the crown to Astos and get the crystal, which he'll take to Matoya. It'll be interesting to see if he still hasn't got the ruby.
Let's see. Ruby was Castle Ordeals, so still questionable if that's required. It would have to lock a loose item behind it, particularly either the cube or TNT leading to cube, which I would say is our most likely scenario right now, is that there is loose TNT in the world that leads to the cube.
It looks like Kyuketsuki is going to check the Mystic Lock chest here in Temple of Fiend.
I don't mind it, it's a quick check. Especially if you go to the further back ones first, then you can warp back to the first chest. And Doogie's gonna find the fantastic chests sitting right next to each other. And nothing in the north side. If you don't have warp when you're checking these chests in Temple of Fiends, you can also use reset if you saved outside. Same basic effect. And Silver Helmet's not really.
If there would have been a key item in there, it would have been interesting to see, because that's kind of like one of those places a lot of runners don't check, and if they do check it, I feel like it's a last resort check. So it would have been interesting to see if there would have actually been something there this time. How long before Doogie would have attempted to check?
Kyu finds that other ribbon. Does he not have a ribbon on the knight? He doesn't, and he doesn't have the silver helmet equipped. I would like to see one or the other equipped. That would be nice. Silver helmet's good absorb. Of course, ribbon is just great all the way around. But now Key is going to do the tail turn in and get the class change.
Definitely a move I like to see runners do after checking the armory, is doing that quick warp out, saving your progress, and then going back down. Especially with us, we've seen the Wiz Ogres and what the Wiz Ogres have to offer in here, and it would just be devastating to have not saved and have to redo all those checks again.
especially if you've picked up anything good, even including a couple of levels. If you have the low-level warp and a house to restore all your spell charges, it's great to just come in, kill everything in your way, check those treasures, go out, save 3 or 4 levels higher, go back through, and you just blaze through the first couple floors.
And I know from experience as a duckling, there's been a few times I tried to do the full volcano dive, in one run, and it never seems to pay out overall.
Every seat's going to be a little bit different. It's what resources you have, etc. Talked about the fun percent flags earlier. This is another one. I don't think we saw these treasures with Kyu earlier, so we'll see if Doogie finds anything worthwhile while Kyu goes to Castle Ordeals.
The first chest Doogie pulled out actually had 53,000 gold, and it looks like that top left chest has a pro cape in it.
Yeah, that's going to be a great find for a mage-heavy team. Is that an extra pro ring? Yeah, he's got an extra one. You don't need that. I'm not sure he checked that bottom right chest in that room.
A lot of money down here in the volcano.
Heal helmet would be good. It'd be better than... It's the same defense as a silver helmet, but it casts heal too, whereas silver helmet just does nothing. Another pro ring, an opal helmet, that's even better absorb. That's your best absorb helmet for the night. But still taking a pass. Gonna see what the Agabas are up to today. You know they're plotting things, they always are. Two hits, but only 2 damage. And low enough for Quad X to take care of them in one shot.
Oh, Medusa's in Ordeals. I don't think we got to see Doogie run into any of these. He, I think, strictly got stuck with Zombols, and for the most part, I think that was pretty much all he ran into.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm feeling like this has been pretty even between these two. They haven't gone step for step, and there's been a lot of crossover where one went in direction A while the other went direction B, and then they crisscrossed. But it feels like a pretty even match between these two right now.
And he finds another gold bracelet for his team, but I agree. I mean, I feel like at this point it's still too tough to call, like, maybe who's in the lead. And I mean, this could come down to an altogether, Topher dive as to, who's in the lead. Because as you said, one went one way, one went the other way, but overall they've crossed paths, and I mean, they ideally seem to be pretty relatively close, as well as, checks and everything. So...
About to see Doogie versus Carrie. This shouldn't be much of a battle with that Masa and a level 19 Knight. Oh, that's absolutely a veteran move, using the heal 3 instead of the heal potions. It's a good play. Get everybody topped up from lava walking. And save that those heal potions and that menuing for another day. Or dungeon. Whatever comes first.
That Fade only hits Carrie for 83 damage.
He's not hitting for very much in return, though. But Quad X does the job!
Able to do just enough for that Quad X to do what it's needed. And what is that? 1 hour and 8 minutes, and we're going to light our first orb.
Orb at number 1, it comes for DoogieMacGyver. Besting the Fiend of Fire. Kyu finds the ruby. One thing about finding it, it tells me if I'm going to do it that late, if there's any way that play works out for me, it's that I've got to go check those ruby chests and see what's there. So I'd really like to see Kyu do that next.
And all things considered, it was Doogie who got the floater. I believe it was around, 7-8 minutes from the start? And we're lighting our first orb now 1 hour later.
Doogie got airborne at 6 minutes 30 seconds, Kyu roughly the 15-minute mark. But the one thing about the airship is it really lends you towards taking the quick progress to go through the key item chain. Now, Doogie is still looking for one of those loose key items that's out there. And I say very likely it's the TNT sitting somewhere in the world. Now he's retracing his steps. He's trying to figure out if he's missed anything. And the biggest thing I think he's missed is the rubies. Chad asks, what's a typical runtime for this flag set? There's a lot of variation in these flag sets, especially based around how long it takes you to get the airship. This is one that lends itself to be on the faster side, because we've done a lot of the game so far, even to only have the one orb.
Yeah, and once you get in go mode, it doesn't take much time to just dive these dungeons, hit the orbs, and move on if you have to make no checks at that point.
Our biggest time sink at this point is going to be where is that last item? Opal Armor is a good find. It's strong on the absorb defense. It doesn't have the elemental resistances that Dragon Armor does.
Still better than, what did he have, Ice Armor on?
Yes, it's much better absorb-wise. Trading one element for another, but absorb-wise, it's definitely better. I don't think the average for these flag sets is anywhere near 130. That's more like what a fast run does. That's in the top tier fast runs. An extremely all-out blitz pace would be faster than that, but those are pretty rare. We're seeing more like 145 to 2 hour mark for an average run. Right, so Doogie, going through the Sea Shrine, do the mermaids have anything? Do any of the chests here in Sea Shrine have something? You covering some different ground. Does Kyu go to a different dungeon, looking for the progress? Right now he's looking to get down to Lefane. Now, Kyu has class changed, so while he's here, it makes a little more sense to check the shops and see what spells are. Because you can learn them. Ice 3 at level 7. Cure and X for not so much. Ice 3 is an okay spell to have, but level 7 you're just not going to see a lot of charges.
Goes ahead and equips that Vorpal on his second red mage there. Looks like he's going to check the Mystic Keylock chest down here in Sea Shrine. But I don't believe either runner I saw have Brack, and if that's the case, it could make for an interesting Kraken 1 fight.
Well, at level 8, so Life Nuke is there at level 8. Being a jerk. So Life 2 is either in Onrak or Lefane. I don't know if we saw the spells in Onrak. Chat saying Vanilla Nuke. Well, close. Vanilla, it would actually be level 8 Lefane. I think.
Picks up a Opal Shield, not bad pickup for his fighter.
Certainly is Vanilla at level 8, though, so it's one of the cases where the randomizer almost always makes that more friendly.
At this point, I want to believe that the only thing other than Cube that Doogie may want to try to dig out, digging all these chests, would be like a defense sword, maybe a white shirt, or even maybe having that power bomb. We haven't seen signs of either of those items, which could be useful for that Topher dive.
Yeah, I would place Power Gauntlet as number 1, Defense Sword as number 2 in terms of luxuries. But we'll see what's out there. White shirt would also be a nice benefit. Black shirt would be okay.
But we do know that Ruse is available too for the night, so if he doesn't find, the white shirt or defense sword, picking up Ruse could be beneficial.
Bane Sword Dragon Armor. That's a pretty nice little room there. He's gonna pick it up. That's definitely got its benefits. It's some AoE when you don't have anything better to do. It's the 3 and 256 strats for Chaos, if necessary. And it's also a pretty good way to kill Tiamat 1.
Yeah, if all else fails and that's all you have, and you're going for it, you can always, try to kill Tiamat with it.
Oh no, it's a great strat for Tiamat. It'll work like 1 out of 5 times. Which just means you need like 5 rounds to expect to kill him.
Definitely a couple decent finds for him going the route of the mermaids, finding a few upgrades there, with the one being the Opal Shield, one being the Dragon Armor, as well as finding the Bane Sword there, so...
Yeah, this is also a seed where, although we had the early airship and a lot of progress to be made, I still contend the spell list is not very kind, and that is going to slow down in various places, I think. The biggest thing that worked out in our favor was finding that early mage staff, and then we were able to supplement it with a couple other casting items.
Now, moving forward, Trenton, he could potentially check the rest of the chest, or he could just skip them, maybe check the Sharknado room, and move on and try to explore, say, like the Mirage area. Do you think that's a good gamble to skip the rest of these chests going forward, considering how far they are to actually check versus just hitting up like Sharknado and maybe the one underneath it and then calling it and just heading right for Kraken?
I don't think they're very far, all things considered. And the magic is here to deal with this stuff, so I do like that. The only thing I don't like is not having Brack here. Having Brack for Kraken is just a very satisfying thing.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
First floor of Mirage is a no-go, so this is very interesting. The route divergence. Could it make all the difference in the world? Because Kyu is doing Sky, while Doogie is doing Sea. Very likely one of these locations has the cube. Which one? Stay tuned, because we should find out pretty soon.
Yeah, this is definitely the route divergence for sure is definitely interesting to see at this point.
I love it when the choices you make change everything. I always feel more like the run is in your hands when you have to choose.
And I like how someone in chat says it could possibly be Earth, and it could be, and I'm, for one, I don't like doing the Earth check because those chests in Earth can be a pain to try to maneuver and get through for the little amount that there is. So Earth is almost always the last place that I check because I'm hoping to just go mode through it.
Yeah, the good news is that our levels are so good right now, you should be able to get through Earth pretty quickly. Angry sharks, and this seed's got its eye on you in a big way. It's a good experience encounter.
It would definitely be unique if for some reason Earth holds it, and both of our runners, with your diverging paths, end up going there at the same time. It would be definitely a unique run to see that.
Well, if they flip locations and Kyu goes sea, Doogie goes sky, presuming that we don't find the cube, then we'll have a really good picture about how close they are to each other. The defense sword is a good find. Like I was saying earlier, one of those luxury items. But that's the thing about luxury. It's good to have when you can.
It's so cool, though, to be able to commentate some of these races that have not only diverging paths, but as we see right now, they're both still so close to each other. It's just crazy to watch the diverging path.
Alright, here comes the Sharknado room, after we get past some Sahags. The most chest-dense location remaining in this sea shrine. With one trap tile in the way. Meanwhile, Kyu, in a more chest-dense location with a greater than less than room. Zeus Gauntlet so far.
Not a bad pickup if he's gonna hit Sea Shrine next. Zeus Gauntlet might not be a bad pickup.
The white shirt for Kyuketsuki. It's a great thing to pick up for the white mage. It is it's the same defense as a gold bracelet, but with better status protection available.
And for those that don't know, the white shirt can actually be used as well to cast Invis 2 on the part, and has unlimited charges.
And Kyu is leaving! Because he doesn't have a cube. He went as far as he could go. Because, of course, it is the cube that we need, if I had thought about that sooner. Do you go Excal Masa strats? I don't think I would, but it is kind of hard to pass up on Excalibur when it's just sitting there. Does Kyu go Earth or Sea? Because it looks like the answer now is the Earth Cave. I believe we have otherwise full cleared the seed from our perspective. The good news is, Earth shouldn't take that long to get through with the levels. The bad news is, how long does it take you to get there?
And which chest is actually going to hold the item that we're seeking? Could it be the first chest? Could it be the last chest?
I don't think there's another place to go. I believe they have done everything else to this point. They've even done Marsh Cave. Although Kyu might still have the later levels of Volcano uncompleted.
4 hits for 426. Lucky for him, another Kraken that just wants to do magic. And honestly, when it comes to Kraken, having Kraken cast magic is probably the best thing you can look forward to.
And Doogie gets orb number 2 before Kyuketsuki has gotten the first. Question in chat's TNT is sitting in some random chest. Yep, probably a loose item in Earth Cave. And we should also have a third ribbon. Well, either there or it could be in the sky. Doogie has gone to Mirage Tower. This is big for Kyu. He really needed Doogie to do this, whether or not he knows that. It's also, gotta give Doogie the white shirt. But the reason that's so important is if Doogie had gone straight to the Earth Cave, he would have found the cube and done everything that much faster.
Yeah, we need Kyu to just go to Earth Cave. If he does the on-rack play, the Sea Shrine, well, it could be an issue.
It won't be as costly now as it could have been, but I think it also goes to show that Doogie is a little bit ahead right now, because there's only the 2 floors here to check. Stocking
Doogie's
up
gonna
on
pick
Brack.
up Brack, yeah. So he'll have Brack. Although it didn't look like that Kraken one was that difficult, but I mean, having Brack, especially if you're able to cast it and land it the first round, I mean.
Well, unfortunately, Kyu is going to the volcano. The best play for him here would have been to go to Earth, but of course, it's easy from this perspective. Kyu doesn't see that. He just knows he has unfinished business here. For Doogie, one more set of chests here, and then he knows that it has to be the Earth Cave. A vampire and a skeleton-ish thing will stand in his way of another orb. And somewhere in that dungeon sits most likely the TNT. Alright, Kyu getting into some of these that he hasn't gotten into yet.
And there's that veteran move you talked about earlier, using that Hail 3 and saving them potions. I think there's still some time for Kyuketsuki. If he finishes this and decides to go right to Earth Cave and not mess around with Sea Shrine, he might be able to make up a little bit of time that way. But if he chooses to go to Sea Shrine right after this, depending on how bad Topher is,
Yep, Doogie, this is the only choice, though. He knows now what direction he has to go. Kyu still with 2 more options, plus the time he has to spend clearing out the rest of this volcano. Doogie with 2 orbs restored already. This is going to be the first for Kyu. You know, I remember a long time ago I said the first floor of Earth Cave would be a reasonably quick check. What if it was on the first floor of Earth Cave all this time?
wow, that would be crazy. Because you did mention early on that you could always come in here, you know, before March and just check the first floor, because you can just reset right out of it. So
yeah, this is generally a very quick check. Ursa unrunnable. Agamas are runnable, but they're also very killable. And how do you not kill an Agama when it's in your way? I mean, when it's in the way.
especially considering we know from watching earlier that you can just use 1 quad X charge and move along.
Only 1 chest remains in this volcano for Kyuketsuki. Red Dragon chest. You gotta check it. You can't leave anything behind when you're looking for this one item. Okay, was not first floor Earth Cave.
So now we're gonna have the second floor. We're gonna have the original coral sword chest room, which is going to be off to the right top. And then there's a room, I think, just to the south and west a little bit for the second room. And nothing in there in the first 3 chests.
So don't want to forget the room at the south here. It's actually one of the most chest-dense rooms in the Earth Cave. Where is this next progression item? Also, do you risk go moding when you've only seen one? Because we can't confirm whether or not we've seen Incentive Ribbon or not. If we had found all 3, then you'd know that's out of the mix, but there's still a chance that Incentive Ribbon is sitting behind the TNT and the cube is still also loose. I'm saying there's a chance.
Well, if we don't find the loose cube in Earth and we find TNT, does that mean it's guaranteed to be behind TNT? Because I don't think there's any other location it could be at this time besides being behind a cube locked Sky Tower.
Well, it could be also in this Earth Cave, but you find the TNT first. So,
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
theory
gotcha.
is, do you risk go moding with just the TNT, or do you finish checking everything in case the cube is also here?
That's actually a really good point, and
on the bright side, if it does happen to be that crazy scenario, it won't take you that long to figure it out. Cabin is not the capitalized C word we were looking for. Kyuketsuki here at the 1 hour 31 minute mark, finally doing battle with the first fiend.
I will say though, this has got to be one of the most exciting matches I've commentated, because as it's going, it's literally coming down to like the final chess for Gomo.
Both runners will know it was in their own hands. They could have made the different routing decision. Execution's going to be big down the line here, and how well do you do this Temple of Fiends Revisited?
Also too, like how bad is Temple of Fiends? So far this week, the 2 races I watched, Temple of Fiends hasn't been too terribly from what we've seen in the past, so there's always that option.
So Fire Orb for Kyuketsuki, his first of the 4. There's life to it, level 7.
Did Doogie miss that one room off to the far right?
I don't think so. I was checking the level 7 magic, so I'm sorry I didn't see. Also, Kyu has gone to the Sea Shrine. It's unfortunate for him. It's gonna be a big time loss. Lord of the Synth says in chat he did skip it, so that leaves one room.
Wow. He's making the gamble on that one chest.
Oh, that's the danger of go-boating Earth Cave too often, is you get into bad habits about not going to certain rooms. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, is like if you're lacking a comfort level with the dungeon, best thing to do in my opinion is save a game right outside it and then just run it full clear 3-4 times in a row, and it just will really build your comfort level with that dungeon.
Well, and we're down to the final room with the last 2 rooms having chests, the north room here and then the south west room.
Again, most likely scenario, one of these the TNT. But is it? We do not yet know. Kyu has gone the Kraken side first.
Which is actually not a bad play, because if he doesn't find anything on this end of Kraken, he can just go out with the orb, save, and then he can just do the quick dive for the mermaids. And if there's nothing he finds on that side, he can just reset out and then continue.
Another little thing you could do on this floor, just a minor time save, but if you're able to quickly cast warp, you can warp out of that treasure room and get back to the staircase faster. It'd be a little bit faster to do this floor that way.
Yep, especially if it's a unrunnable encounter there for sure.
Alright, one treasure room in Doogie's path, one he left behind. What do we have here? With Cube, TNT, and possibly a ribbon missing.
And this could be it. Does he, if it's not here, does he go back and check, or does he...
There it is, TNT.
The TNT.
And he skips the other chest. He did not get all three.
Wow. So there's two chests in Earth that could still hold what we're looking for.
If either of those chests just happens to have the cube, this is a game changer. But it looks like Doogie remembered he didn't get that third one, and he's not going to let that beat him. It looks like he's not going to let this one chest beat him. I like the play. It feels bad to double back, but you have to swallow your reservations and just make the move. This is a very solid play. I think he'd do the same thing if he remembers the other room. Save outside, go right back to it, and don't let that room beat you.
And you got to think too on DoogieMacGyver's on his perspective. You know, we did have a 6-minute floater. We are 1 hour and 36 minutes in. He might feel that he's behind at this point.
That was our third and final ribbon in that chest. That tells us for sure that the TNT leads to the cube.
And just think, that could have actually been the cube, and if he didn't check it, that could have been huge for Kyuketsuki.
I mean, basically, think about how close this is. That was a 50-50 shot at this point. That could have been the incentive ribbon. That could have been the incentive ribbon just as easily as it could have been the cube. That's how close that was. Now the path is open for Doogie as he has a speed bump in Lich.
And at this point too, Doogie's got to be feeling good too. He's got decent armor, so I'm gonna say he's probably just gonna end up go-moding through Tiamat at this point. I couldn't see him checking, but maybe a couple free chests at this point, if any at all.
Right, Doogie is still gonna have one more dungeon to get through before he can go to Topher, but he'll be able to go mode Sky Castle, so that much faster. And I gotta figure he's done checking chests. Just say la vie to the Power Gauntlet. It's really the only thing you'd want at this point.
And it's just crazy to think it came down to literally the last room of chests to be checked.
It can definitely do that to you. And that also means, think how early we had the rod. It was all the way back with the pirates. It was our 4th key item found in this seed.
Yep.
And that cube was there the whole time.
And to think how game-changing it could have been for either runner to hit Earth Cave earlier than what was checked.
I mean, you could have go-moded Sky, the Mirage Tower, certainly.
Might have not have had to have checked all of Sea Shrine that they both checked.
Yeah. Alright, Kyu, coming to do battle with Kraken number 1 and trying to restore orb number 2. DoogieMacGyver about to go on to the Sky Castle, and we'll see how much chest checking goes on here. I can't figure it's very much, just because we found so much. I mean, Aegis Shield is unaccounted for in Power Gauntlet. There's just nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, I feel like he's pretty well geared and ready to go. It'll be interesting to see, too, if we see a Warmech sighting this time. I know the race I commented earlier the week, we actually saw 2 Warmechs, but both people racing didn't have enough resources to take it on and were forced to run, so. He gets a Brack right off the bat. Kyuketsuki is going to light his second orb with the good old Kraken Brack strat.
Alright. 2 orbs to 3, but soon to be 4 in the column of DoogieMacGyver. While he gets there, let's just run through this real quick, what we've seen in this seed. The floater was available from the king. Princess Sarah thanked us with the adamant. The pirates reluctantly handed... The blacksmith was kind enough to hand over the ship after we delivered that adamant. We had to beat up some pirates. They've surrendered to the rod after doing so. Sarda gave us the canoe for free. The Oxyale was being sold at Crescent Lake. In Crescent Lake, the confused old men were holding onto the herb. Insert your own joke there. The key was available from the prince, not random enough. The robot gave us the slab. Battling through castle ordeals gave us the non-required ruby. Lefane, once you had a translated slab, gave us the chime. Ice Cave's incentive item was the bottle. The bottle releases the fairy who gave us the loot in thanks. Slogging through the marsh cave, you were rewarded with the crown. Taking that to Aztos gave us the crystal, not random enough. Matoya had the tail. Doogie has the Warmech. Earth Cave had loose in it the TNT, and the TNT from Narek turned into the cube. Doogie's taking the fight against Warmech. Fires off Swirl. Non-elemental, AoE damage. Honestly, one you're glad that one of the last 3 fiends doesn't have. So
yeah, in fact, there's still a lot of potential dangerous things that Topher could hold. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of things. I mean, there's still, I believe, Tornado, Thunder, Nuke and Nuclear still available, and I think we have yet to see a Q or 4, so Topher is still, there could be a lot of issues that they run into down there.
It brings up a good point that Warmech is in the pool with the Fiends Revisited and Chaos. They all share one pool for all the spells, all the skills, all the abilities. So you're talking 3 nukes in that pool. You're talking 4 nuclears in that pool. You're talking about Thunder. You're talking about Zap, Swirl, Tornado. A lot of stuff that can wreck you. And down goes Warmech. That is a nice pile of experience DoogieMacGyver is rewarded with.
Yeah, gonna bring all of his Light Warriors to 24, which is a really good level going into Topher. Especially considering the gear that he has equipped on all of his Light Warriors, so...
Alright, Doogie, with the last fiend. Tiamat guards the final orb that needs restored. not doing a lot of damage with that first hit. Fasts and tempers, they can fix that in a hurry. You can also use Bane strats on this Tiamat. Brack also effective. Fade not doing a lot.
And X-Cal just barely cutting the surface of this Tiamat.
Yeah, I think especially if you're going to have the Red Mage do the support magic, there's no reason to split the Masa and X-Cal. Just do Masa on the Knight.
Vorpal, not even cutting through either.
Out comes Blaze. Everybody's got a lot of magic defense and a few ribbons along the way. Speaking of Vorpal critting. Question chat, who does have the Masa and Doogie's party? I believe the first Red Mage does.
It's definitely an interesting strat to give that Red Mage the Mass Immune and then just have it do support magic.
Yeah, I think it's more of he set that up for the random encounters instead of the bosses. But if you're going to do that, I would like to see him switch it back for the bosses. Okay, so you're going to use up these save items.
Looks like he's going to do that. I mean, that's a
Good.
veteran move there.
Absolutely. He's putting heals back in the first column. Well, I wouldn't mind going and buying a stack of 10. He's going to go for it. This is okay. You don't need that many heals, and rarely is an extra 10 going to change everything. It's just, you'd rather have those 10 and not need them. Alright, Temple of Fiends entry comes approximately 1 hour 45 minutes.
As he runs into the evil men, but in this case we call them the okay men.
Fun names.
And he's going to validate the run by checking both the validation chests.
Well, again, there is a little bit out there, but if you just lined up your heals, you usually want to skip those and not mess up your lineup.
I totally agree. I've actually done that before, and it's like, oh, dang it.
Kyu getting around to these ruby locked chests and not finding it, so now the path is clear. I do like that he checked the ruby chests before doing this, though.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because those 4 chests are fairly easy, and if it would have been in there, it would have saved him a whole lot of time here.
He runs away from the worms. If you had Masa on the Knight, I actually would have really liked killing them. They usually go down easy enough to a high-level Knight with Masa, and you maybe squeak out another level or 2 before the final bosses, which only makes them a little easier.
As he runs into unrunnable Earth. Definitely not what you want to find. I mean, you want to make this trip as fast as you can using little to no resources. So finding these unrunnable encounters are just what you want to avoid as much as possible.
Doogie is newer to competing in Final Fantasy I Randomizer. He's been a longtime fan from the Twitch broadcasts. We're glad to have him in this tournament, and he's putting on a run here. He is getting to the first of the Fiends Revisited at this point.
And I think it's safe to say at this general point, DoogieMacGyver is in the lead at this point. But, like we said earlier, this could all change depending on how these fiends are dealt with down here in Topher. And if he dies or has to reset out, I mean, that could make it so Kyuketsuki could catch up at that point.
Well, if it's rough, the only thing for Kyuketsuki is doesn't have something that Doogie doesn't. And he's not going to unless he checks chests in Sky Castle. Even then, the only thing he could find that potentially alters the seed is that power gauntlet. But really, there's just not anything I see that closes that gap for Kyuketsuki, unless he just does something different at this point. So this is firmly in Doogie's hands. It is his race to win, but you gotta close it out. And how hard will this Temple of Fiends Revisited be? Question in chat, does Kyuketsuki not have the cube? He does not. He has to get the TNT, which is behind the rod block, and then turn that in for the cube. We've got Lich Revisited, the speed bump, as many like to call him. He's out of the way. Onto the fire floor. About the shortest one there is in this dungeon. We don't need those gray worms. A little bit of respect for Carrie. Not doing much with the red mage swords. I like using the fast here. I don't know about the temper, but I certainly don't mind throwing a fast charge out on this fight. And he won't get it, he only gets the temper off. Now the white shirts come out. A little bit more respect for how hard Carrie can hit. But it won't matter.
With him moving on to this next floor, Trenton, maybe you can help explain a little bit, because I still don't quite exactly understand. But as we move into the Kraken floor, you'll notice that the people like to try to stay along the walls, and it has to do with something about the encounter rates inside these buildings.
Okay, it's true in any of these rooms inside of a building. The wall that the door is on will not have an encounter unless it's a trap tile. That is true of every room you go into. So when Kyu walks in this door, there is no encounter that you will get into along the bottom wall of that room. So the preferred strat on this water floor is hug the wall close to the door as much as you can so that you're not getting the encounters here. Question in chat, pretty terrible spell list this seed. I would say so. For black magic, the first actually the first 6 levels, the best you got was Lit 3 for black magic. White magic had Fade at level 3. So, interesting that this one was probably really benefited by the forced class.
Yeah, and I want to say that Kyuketsuki made the most out of the garbage spells at level 1, getting Harm 4 and then finding Zozo Melman right at the start, and actually being able to use those Harm 4 charges to get some early XP.
Chad asks about Life 2 and Cure 4. I don't remember seeing Cure 4. Life 2 was at level 7. When Doogie was there, he did not have class change, so he couldn't learn it. It was back at the Fane entrance. That was Gaia, so he didn't learn it at the time and wasn't going to double back for Life 2. Kyuketsuki did learn Life 2, so that is one advantage he has. It's not a huge one. Leaving the fighter in front for Kraken 2. It's something not everybody likes to do because this Kraken loves to hit hard and statistically most likely to hit the top spot. Ink coming out is really good news. It just doesn't do the damage that Kraken 2 can do.
As well as we saw Lightning 2 there first. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better Kraken 2.
That is as easy as Kraken 2 as you're gonna see. Now, will Tiamat stand in Doogie's way? So far, making good progress through this Temple of Fiends Revisited. Kyuketsuki is almost to the cube's room. Also, that third ribbon awaits in that room. Now, the battle with Tiamat. Still leaving the fighter in spot number 1, counting on that extra defense to survive. Fire to the opening spell. Not that scary. The good news about the boss pool is it's such a big pool that you don't always see the nasty stuff come out. Sometimes it's that second, third, fourth spell in, and you just get by without seeing Nuke.
Also, too, having the Invis 2s on those red mages and the white shirt, he's able to get more than one cast of that Invis 2 out right at the start, which could be beneficial, especially going into Chaos if it's huge, heavy melee.
And another not very hard fiend he's passed. Tiamat 2. Gotten really lucky with these fiends so far being as easy as they are, but what will be the story when we get to Chaos? We are moments away from finding out. DoogieMacGyver trying to save the world, up to Chaos, good levels on the party, pretty good setup, great equipment.
And could be sub 2 hours. Be?
It's firmly on the table, leaving the fighter in the front spot. I don't even think he did any evade.
He didn't do any evade
on this first turn. Lit 2 comes out first. That's mild.
Wow, and a miss. Definitely not what you want to see at the Masamune.
2 hits, 72 damage. Still not stacking any evasion. Chaos not hitting hard. Not even against the white mage in the last spot. That's good news. But what's in this spell list? What's in the abilities? Blizzard comes out. White mage still alive, but not by much. Does he heal?
He's going for the all-out punch strats.
Well, you know what they say. Dead things don't attack you. But it can take a lot of HP to take out Kraken. He baselines at 2,000 HP. He can be over 4,000. White mage is down. Out of temper charges. Only one hit, but it's for 200 damage. Those tempers are adding up.
Going for the next best thing, Lit 3. 637 with 3 hits.
There's some good crits. There's Nuclear! It's been hiding. Does he have healing spells? I think you need to drink. You need to drink the heals onto the fighter, not invis. You're worried about another spell or ability coming out that does the damage. Ice 3. Red mage down to one knee. Heal staff even wouldn't be bad, but drink the heals.
Just going all out fighting.
He's got it!
25!
That is a GG for DoogieMacGyver, finishing in first place with a time of 1:57.50. Chat, let's see the GGs. He made it happen. He went all out. Got it done.
Definitely made a gamble there without using any sort of heal strats, and it could have just not played out as well as it did for him there, so definitely GG.
Right, for Kyuketsuki now, he's on the climb through Mirage Tower.
And it would appear that he is also in go mode, and it doesn't look like he's been checking any chests, and at this point I think he's just ready to go kill Tiamat and go take out Chaos in his Temple of Fiend Revisited.
Oh, Crack came out there from one of those unpleasant things.
I mean, overall, we saw diverging paths, but I mean, up until the very end in that Earth Cave dive by Doogie, it was fairly close on both runners' screens.
Getting past Onacho, they're a very good experience, but level's not the biggest concern right now.
Kyuketsuki on his Bridge of Destiny. We'll see if he's lucky enough to spot a Warmech on his travels to Tiamat or not.
And now the double nachos. Hello, Doogie! How you feeling?
Pretty great. Pretty stressed. I thought I was behind.
That was a long search for that cube. And I gotta say, what may have been my favorite play of the game is when you realized you'd left that one chest behind and you weren't gonna let it beat you, just in case.
Oh yeah, I started walking out when I got the TNT, and then I was like, wait a minute, that could be ribbon and not cube. And if I walk out and leave that chest there, I'd abandoned one in fire, and I left the really stupid one on like Middle Earth, and I just wasn't gonna leave a third.
It was crazy enough that you did find the ribbon, because if that could have been cube and you did skip it, it could have, been a huge gamble trying to figure out what chest you still had to go back later and dig out. So
yeah, because either one of them would have been a several-minute commitment. So it's basically like flip a coin on whether it's going to cost me like 3 to 4 minutes or 6 to 8 minutes to go find what I had left.
I will say too, the play that I liked was right there at the very beginning. You got the adamant, and you're like, you know what? Rather than going to the port town of Provoca, I feel like it's telling me I need to go here. And you were able to go there, pick up the ship after getting the floater from the king, and you were the first one in the floater. I think it was around 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was a super early float. I mean, whatever, I'm a duckling. I don't need to worry about giving away strats because they're probably not great. If I get an herb, a TNT, an adamant, anything that sends me left, I pretty much always go left, because if you go right and you just hit, you get Melmond, you get Lulu'd or Luthiened. It's Lulu in my head because they look like they're Lulu dancing in my head. So, but yeah, you go right, you hit that, and you're just like a billion minutes behind, and it feels terrible.
Well, he found what he was looking for. He was hunting on this bridge, and he's located Warmech. And you had a Warmech fight yourself.
I did. I was worried about it. I think I started buffing. I threw up like a couple Invis-2s. Round one, just in case. He threw out like Swirl or something, and it wasn't too bad. I was worried about the second one because I was worried about running out of fades and Tiamat being miserable, but...
So let's talk a little bit about your Chaos fight. Were you nervous as the hit points kept dwindling?
Oh yeah, I mean, like, this is my first race, so I'm a little shaky, but yeah, like, I was shaking a little bit. I was like, do I throw out the Quad X? Quad X doesn't work. What am I thinking? Like, yeah, when that first round miss after I fast, it's like fast into miss, and I'm like, oh, well, I wonder where that power bonk was.
We never saw it, so probably either the upper floors of Sky, or would possibly be in the Temple of Beans Revisited.
Yeah.
We may or may not have been yelling at the screen in the booth here for drink strats on that chaos, because you got down to literally the very last hit, and if he would have pulled out something like another nuclear nuke or even thunder, there you'd be resetting, going back through that dive again. So.
Oh, I seriously thought about doing the heal pot, but ended up not doing it, and
it worked out.
And it's a little desperate too. Like the difference, 30 hit points sometimes makes a difference, but if he nukes me, like the chance that extra 30 was going to matter is fairly low.
Bringing out the brag against Tiamat, but not first turn success. Anything else about this one really stand out to you?
Early floater, I'm kind of embarrassed about, I miswrote my notes, so that, I wasted probably, 2 minutes going back to Elfland to try and get Fate on my red mages, when, for some reason I had written that they could get it on class change, and they couldn't. So I'm still not great on my spell permissions, so that's one of the things I'm working on.
If it makes you feel any better, I have no idea either. I would have to have that written down, which may be an idea for going forward. Orb for Kyuketsuki, number 4. Now his path to Temple of Beans Revisited and 2,000 years in the past is open. That's really not a time-consuming check, though. You were there for Waterfall anyways, as I recall, so...
Well, no, the first check, but I took notes. I went back, and I got Fate on the night, but I didn't... I thought I could get Fate on the red mages, which would have been much more important than Fate on the night.
Yeah, alright. So Kyo is stacking up to go to Temple of Fiends Revisited. One other thing is, I loved when you made the play to line up the heals in the first column.
Oh yeah, and then I checked 2 chests in there and get the cabin to ruin it. I was like, oh man. I was looking for Power Bonk. And I think I need to figure out whether to... I like lining up heals in first column, but if I'm going to check chests in there, it might not be worth it. You'd have to look at... I don't know actually how many chances of, tents and cabins there are.
Well, it would depend on how many you've seen at that point, but...
yeah.
I'm
not going to remember that.
For what it's worth, I think if you're going to hunt for that, you'd probably be better to do the Foreign Sky right before the teleporter.
Yeah, I thought about it. I need to get... Sorry, go.
You had a good setup in there, so...
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. I should have swapped Massa to the night earlier, probably for... it's not a huge deal, but... yeah, the double attack strats when I'm probably just better off casting fasts and, fasting up the Vorpal as opposed to, attacking with a red mage Massa.
We have Kyuketsuki at 2 hours and 7 minutes, gonna enter his Temple of Fiends Revisited for the first time.
Did he have any nasty wipes? Because I don't think I wiped. I don't think I had anything real nasty.
He didn't, but it was just a lot of some things not necessarily finished off. He did an early volcano dive and then didn't go back to it for a long time.
Oh, just the treasure room floor and then left?
Yeah. Then he also did take a bunch of time to hunt for Warmech.
Ah, gotcha.
He knew you were already done at that point, so he was just
Bridge of
on
Destiny.
the bridge. He was looking for it.
And also, too, if you go back and rewatch this, Doogie, you'll see that, there was a little bit of divergence early on and in the middle, but there for the longest time, even with the diverging pass, you guys were pretty much, I would like to say pretty close to together until, the very, very end when you were able to pull away finding that TNT and that Earthgate.
Did he check Sky before? Did he check Sky as well? Because I was a little bit worried about that. Just checking all those chests for the, the cube or the TNT leading to it. And then, because I was right next to Earth Cave when I decided to go to Sky instead. And that would have saved, some time if I had just dove over, obviously.
Yeah, he
now.
did the first 2 floors of Mirage.
Okay, or Mirage, yeah.
He actually did them before you did.
I think he was doing that when you were doing digging out sea. I think he was in Mirage.
Yeah, that's I got really worried when I didn't find it in Water Temple. That's when that's when I thought I was way behind, because like you dig out mermaids and you get nothing out of it, and you just and especially if you do those stupid chests, like the Crescent Room chest and the chests on the floor before mermaids, they take forever.
Well, one thing we know about the next round is White Mage won't be forced and Thief won't be banned. Anything you are looking forward to or hoping with that?
I don't have enough experience, like I started less than a month ago, so I don't have enough experience with knowing what's awesome. This setup fits with me really well. I really like red mages. Like Fighter, Thief, Red Mage before we knew what the teams were going to be, the forced and the ban, is something I played around with a bit. Thief is amazing if you have to dive marsh, but that doesn't happen very often in these flags, so I don't know. I don't think anyone's going to take a Thief unless they have to, but it, I don't know what percentage of seeds, but there's a fraction of seeds where Thief just does a tremendous amount of work while you're walking around or sailing around, miserable, trying to find that floater, trying to find a place to get levels.
And I think in your case, with the way this seed started out, having terrible magic, is you actually had 3 weapon wielders, so although the magic was crap, you still had, melee that you could tear stuff through, so that was a huge benefit, I think, on your part.
Yeah, I especially I like to, Fighter Red Mage is what I'm most practiced with, and I really, really like, because if you have bad magic early, we had Quad Axe at least, which let me get to level 3 or level 4 pretty easily, which was nice. But yeah, if there's bad magic early, the second Red Mage makes a huge difference. Not just from offense, they have so many more hit points than Black Mages, just so many more. And you're a level or 2 behind on higher level magic, which can hurt but isn't too bad. But the hit points just make so much more of a difference, and you almost never care about the level 6, level 7, level 8 Black Mage magic anyways, so.
Kiyu is past the speed bump and onto the fire floor. Well, Doogie, it was a great run you put on today. Any final thoughts about this one?
I had actually forgotten that the magic was terrible early. But no, early floater, bad magic, but otherwise, nothing too terrible. Chaos gave me a scare, but felt pretty good.
We'll certainly wish you good luck on the next round, and thank you for joining us tonight. And thanks for entering, by the way. Glad
Thanks
you did.
for having me. Yeah, I've had a great time so far. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, and while I'm in a thank you mood, let's throw a few more out there. Twitch and Chilled, doing a great job as our tracker tonight. Braxis, it's been a pleasure to work with you. And thank you, of course, to Speed Gaming for being fine hosts for us this evening.
Yes, definitely thank you to Speed Gaming, but more importantly, having everybody in the audience. I mean, without you guys, we would just be talking to ourselves, and they might put us in Crescent Lake with the confused old men.
Distinct possibility. So if you want even more Final Fantasy Randomizer action, we already have Arson Horse and Edgeworth going, that race in progress. And then I am actually going to have to get out of here because I need to get ready to call a 9 o'clock race. So, Doogie, to put you on the spot, how would you feel about hanging out with Braxis for a little bit?
It's just fine. I can hang out and talk about what's going on a little bit. That's fine.
Okay. Well, good luck to Kiyu, and thank you both, and have a good night, everybody.
Yes, for sure. Thank you again for joining me, Trenton. Definitely, we got Kyuketsuki on his Kraken too, and luckily we saw on Doogie screen, lots of lits and ink, so definitely what you want to see when it comes to a Kraken 2 fight. So
Yeah, I was super happy that he didn't, that he didn't just, walk up 8 hits, 40,000 damage, murder somebody.
yep, and it's usually the top slot or the third slot, which I've had the most experience with of those characters just getting taken out. So. And he takes out Kraken, and he's going to move on to the Tiamat floor.
That was the other thing that was scary about this. I was super happy that I had my pro rings at that when I ran into him. But the man-cats had crack. One of them cracked through an ambush or something like that could totally wipe you.
Yeah, I would have to say Man-Cats and Catmen probably up there, top 2 enemies I don't like, right behind Ankleos and our Ankleos for sure. Although these vampire fights, not a bad fight considering he does have Thor's hammer, he does have the light axe, which is harm too, and the mage staff, so doesn't really have to use any resources to get through these.
Yep. And the vampires weren't super squishy, but they didn't have a lot of hit points, so you can definitely take them out in a round. If I needed more XP, or really wanted it, I probably should have taken a couple more of the vampire fights I ran from.
And he's going to enter the Tiamat fight, moving his Black Mage or Black Wizard to the top slot and his Fighter to the third. Going right for defensive strats, using Invis 2, defense, as well as the white shirt right there. Took a second, thought about using the heal 3, and then chose to just go straight for the Fade and Temper strats, trying to just take him out as quickly as possible. Getting out of there with 5 hit points left on the White Wizard.
Yeah, very nice. He's got life, so it's not, it wouldn't be the end of the world to lose him, but...
It's going to be interesting to see. You went straight for the full offense on Chaos, and it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to go for the same strat or if he's going to go for the defense invis to strats at the beginning, try to get that full evade up.
Yeah, it's a really tough choice. If he never throws a punch, which he often doesn't, it's
Yep, and like Triton said earlier, a dead mob is one that's not going to do any damage either. So.
Yep. Yeah, and you spend, a round and a half of actions, 5-6 actions, getting that evasion up, and he never throws a punch, or his punches are weak. That's a lot of time you spent. And but at the same time, if you don't do it, and then he murders your fighter, just 6 hits, 800 damage, you're dead.
The one thing I hate about Chaos is if you do try to do a setup like that and he doesn't throw a punch, is if you've yet to see Cure 4, there's a possibility that all the damage you do, if you don't take him out before he does use that Cure 4, is negligible anyway.
Yep.
And it does look like he's going to pull out some Invis too. He does get the fast and the temper going on the fighter, so.
Yeah, and if you're buffing up like that, I probably should have thrown out an Invis too. What I really should have done is I should have moved the white shirt. So that way a red mage can throw out the Invis too, and the white mage can fade, because, yeah, just getting that guaranteed damage helps a lot. I noticed chat saying something as I came in after I finished. Does Quad X even work on Chaos? If he's, 300 or under?
To be honest, I do not know the answer to that 100%. It does look like, though, he did run out of temper charge on the Black Mage and is going to throw, go ahead and throw those nukes out.
Ooh, what level was Nuke?
Level 8, I believe.
Nice.
And I believe that was in Gaia. 316 on the Fade. 143 at the Nuke. Still throwing temper, though, on the Red Mage. Oh, and there's Nuclear.
Yeah, luckily it only takes down that White Mage, but that Black Mage is pretty low, so... Still a good amount of hit points on that fighter, though, so as long as he can stay up.
And a double Nuclear.
Oof.
Blizzard. Oh, and he takes him out. 288 on that final hit.
Yeah, surviving that Blizzard's amazing. Very nice.
Ooh,
GG.
that was, yeah, that was very close on Kyuketsuki. But he's going to finish with an official SRL time of 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 27 seconds. GG to Kyuketsuki. GG, Kyuketsuki.
Hey, it's Kyu. Yeah. All I can say is last chest I could have checked.
You know, don't feel bad because Doogie was actually in the same position as you are. And if you go back and do the rewatch on this, you'll see that you guys had somewhat diverging paths, but literally up until towards the very end when he was actually able to hit Earth Cave just before you were and find that, you guys were both looking for that TNT going into the cube, and it was literally like the last chest for both of you guys.
Yeah, it was miserable.
But I will say, definitely an early play for you, Q, as you went directly to the port town of Provoca, finding that it was Zozo Melmond, and having the early harm 4, you were able to take advantage of that early on, where Doogie actually went to turn in the adamant and got the floater firsthand. He was a little bit ahead because of that at the start, but not by much, because those levels that you gained by doing that, you were actually able to catch up right after you were able to check the adamant and get your ship and turn it into your floater. So
yeah, I don't like going immediately to the Dwarf Cave in that situation, because there's so many times that you'll just get a dud from Dwarf Cave, and then after that point you can't really go back and check. And Zozo Moment is pretty much the most efficient grind at that point before going into Marsh.
yeah, and considering there was absolutely garbage spells until you were able to find Elflin and get level 3 magic, which wasn't the greatest. It was Lit 3 and Ice 2, so being able to use that Harm 4 as effective as you were able to at the beginning really, really did help you out.
Yep, I just wish I didn't go full density of chest and just went to Earth earlier, because I thought about doing it. I had the rod, I said I can just clear Earth right now. And
that was actually one thing Trenton and I talked about, is you guys did get the rod somewhat early, but also finding the mage staff early as well could have, you could have went in and checked, but both of you guys basically going to ordeals after you found the mage staff was kind of the call that we both seen, being able to use that effectively in ordeals, especially on the zombies and mummies, to get some early XP, considering we didn't have any magic at that point.
Yeah, I mean, going to ordeals is always preferable in my opinion if you have the levels. It's a faster check for the most part. You have decent density of chess. You can always take the zombie D-tile if you really want to get some grind on. I wouldn't really recommend it that much in this flags if you're going to do it early, just because you can't really do an efficient grind until you get the 12 key items. But
yeah, for sure, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, I hate that. I probably hate it way more than I should, but I never want to go there. It just feels like it takes forever to check all those chests, and if you don't find anything, I don't know, I feel infinitely behind. And it's not
Is
like
it-
you can get good XP out of Earth, really, anyways, so...
I mean, Earth is fine, and like going in checking like the first floor or the second floor is actually a pretty quick check. It was in the 4th floor at the very bottom.
Yep.
Anything you'd like to maybe add to this that you might have that you actually enjoyed the most, or maybe something you just thought you did that you maybe wish you, if you had a different another chance, maybe not do?
Well, the first thing I want to do is make sure I talk to the Hooray Dwarf on my way out of Dwarf Gate the first time. Because if you're gonna meme, you gotta meme it, right? But I was actually very excited because I didn't have to go to Marsh at that point, so that was definitely hooray. But on a serious note, the only reason I fought Warmech was because I already saw the GG from that point, so...
And one thing I wanted to add too, I know Trent didn't bring it up at all, is just out of curiosity, when you guys first made your parties and entered Canaria and saw the type of magic that was available, did either of you at any point think about resetting out and maybe choosing a different character comp?
I thought about it, but then I thought, well, what if we have something rude like Temper or Fast being Black Mage locked, and I didn't really want to go with a double fighter Black Mage White Mage if I got forced into Marsh.
And I think that's a really a hard call to make, because you never know when, if you would have found early level 2 magic. I mean, early level 2 magic could have been exactly what you needed, and depending on how you re-rolled, at that point you could have just been like, man.
I mean, it all depends. Like, being frank here, it's like we didn't really get Provoke until we got into the Outer Sea. I'm sorry, I think that was in Gaia, actually. And so we'd have to get Airborne first for that, and Elfland was in on-rack locations. I mean, that's fairly standard for these seeds to have early magic just buried.
Yeah, one or both of them you frequently just won't get until you get your, one of your progression items. But yeah, I don't and part of why I like the red mages is I feel like I want to reroll less, because they can, you can just put a stupid scimitar on them, or if you get a nice sword, put it on them. But I think I only like rerolling parties for Fade. 2 slot or 4 slot level 1 Fade is the only time I'm because it takes some time, and you're making a worse party comp, because obviously you're starting with what you think the best overall party comp is. So you're you're spending some time and just losing time and losing the quality of the party comp for hopefully an immediate benefit.
Well,
Yep.
I know that there is a race starting up in just a minute or two, so I'm just going to give some quick shout-outs here. First of all, shout-out to all the ducklings in the duckling pond. If you notice, all my party comp was named after ducklings. Shout-out to them, and shout-outs to Speed Gaming Family of Networks for hosting us, to you and Trenton for doing the commentary. I didn't catch who was the tracker, unfortunately, but appreciate everyone putting in volunteer work, and also to you, Doogie, for the race. Thank you.
Yeah, GG. Thanks for the race. I had a great time.
And like we said earlier, from everybody here from the Final Fantasy 1 Randomizer community, we would like to thank Speed Gaming for everything that they do and for hosting us, as well as you guys, the fans. And make sure you guys go and give these guys a follow, maybe check in on them when they're doing other stuff. But until next time, I am Braxis Muse, and we'll see you guys again next time.